We often hear that talent is everything, that the world's top performers, the athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, were simply born different, gifted, destined. But Adam Grant challenges that idea from the very first page of Hidden Potential. He doesn't deny that natural ability exists, but he asks a more powerful question. What if the real game changer isn't talent, but how we develop what's hidden inside us? Let's start with a story. Picture a young girl growing up in a small village in Malawi. She doesn't have access to fancy schools or elite teachers. But what she does have is grit and a community that believes in progress. Years later, she becomes the country's first female president, Joyce Banda. Her story isn't about raw talent. It's about potential, the kind that grows, evolves, and surprises even ourselves. Grant says we've been looking at success through the wrong lens. We idolize prodigies, but we overlook the power of late bloomers. We admire the gifted, but ignore the strugglers who transform their lives through deliberate growth. In fact, some of the world's most iconic achievers didn't show early signs of genius at all. Take Albert Einstein. As a child, he struggled to speak fluently. His teachers thought he was slow. Michael Jordan, cut from his high school varsity team. Oprah, fired from her first TV job. If you judge them on talent, you'd miss the truth. Their potential was hidden, not absent. And that's Grant's central idea. True potential is often invisible at first. It needs the right environment, the right struggle, and the right mindset to be revealed. But here's the trap we all fall into. We confuse performance with potential. Grant explains that just because someone doesn't perform well today doesn't mean they can't become extraordinary tomorrow. We need to stop measuring people by snapshots and start seeing them as stories in progress. Think of your own life. How many times have you written yourself off? Told yourself you're not a math person, or not creative, or not confident? Those are labels, not truths. Grant argues that potential isn't fixed, it's flexible. And often it's hidden beneath layers of doubt, bad experiences, or lack of opportunity. What unlocks it? Struggle, effort, coaching, challenge. He introduces a powerful term, character skills. These aren't about charm or charisma. They're deeper. They include grit, curiosity, humility, and resilience. And they're far more important than any raw talent when it comes to long-term growth. Grant calls them the undervalued superpowers of success. Why? Because they can be developed. This is where the book gets exciting. Instead of just celebrating people who already made it, Hidden Potential gives us a roadmap for how to develop ourselves, no matter where we're starting. Because potential isn't about where you begin. It's about how far you're willing to go. And to go far, you need to rethink failure. Grant shows us that people with hidden potential often fail, early and often, not because they're doomed, but because they're in the process of transformation. It's the struggle that shapes them. Just like pressure turns coal into diamonds, discomfort can turn ordinary effort into extraordinary outcomes. In schools, in workplaces, even in families, we need to shift from asking, who's the smartest, to who's ready to grow. So let's wrap up part 1 with a simple takeaway. Stop underestimating your own potential. You don't need to be born brilliant. You need to build it. One day, one challenge, one decision at a time. Struggle has a bad reputation. We're taught to avoid it, to fix it, to eliminate it. And when we do struggle, we often see it as proof that we're not good enough. But Adam Grant flips the script. In Hidden Potential, he argues that struggle isn't the enemy of progress. It's the engine. The right kinds of struggle, he says, are exactly what we need to grow. Think about this. When a baby first learns to walk, they fall. A lot. But we never say, well, walking isn't for them. We cheer them on, because we know the falls are part of the process. But somewhere along the way, that mindset disappears. We start fearing mistakes. We play it safe. We avoid the hard stuff. And by doing that, we avoid the very experiences that unlock our hidden potential. Grant introduces the idea of desirable difficulty. It means intentionally putting yourself in situations that are hard, not impossible, but just hard enough to stretch you. That's where real growth happens. Let's take an example from the world of sports. Elite runners train at high altitudes, where oxygen is scarce. It's harder to breathe. It's tougher on the body, but it forces their systems to adapt. And when they return to sea level, they're stronger, faster, more efficient. That's desirable difficulty in action. In everyday life, it might look like giving a presentation in a language you're still learning, taking on a task at work that's a level above your comfort zone, practicing something you're not naturally good at, on purpose. These aren't punishments. They're accelerators. But here's the key. It's not just about struggling more. It's about struggling smarter. Grant says the type of struggle matters. If you're stuck in meaningless frustration, doing the same thing over and over with no feedback or support, that's not productive. That's just exhausting. But when you struggle in an environment that provides feedback, encourages curiosity, and challenges you just enough to stay in the game, that's when transformation happens. There's also a deep psychological insight here. When people struggle early in life, maybe because of poverty, exclusion, or discrimination, they often develop what Grant calls adaptive character. They learn to persist, to problem solve, to bounce back. These aren't just survival traits. They're success traits, forged in struggle. So why do we keep designing schools, jobs, and even families that try to eliminate all struggle? Because we're afraid. We think struggle will break people. But Grant shows us, with story after story, that the right struggles build people. He shares the story of Sal Khan, founder of Khan Academy. Sal didn't start off as a polished educator. In fact, his first videos were clunky. His voice was awkward, but he kept experimenting, improving, adapting. What made him different wasn't natural talent. It was his willingness to struggle publicly and consistently. Struggle taught him more than ease ever could. There's also something powerful here for leaders and parents. If you want people to grow, stop shielding them from all difficulty. Instead, create spaces where challenge is safe, supported, and expected. Grant calls this the scaffold of stretch. Just like scaffolding helps a building rise, support and challenge help potential rise. You give people hard problems to solve, but you also give them tools, feedback, and a net when they fall. It's not about throwing someone into the deep end and saying, "Good luck." It's about walking with them, then stepping back just enough so they can walk on their own. Let's bring it back to you. When was the last time you chose struggle? Not because you had to, but because you wanted to grow? What if you saw every tough situation as a lab? A place to test your resilience, build new skills, and expand what you're capable of? Because the truth is, the struggle you're avoiding might be the breakthrough you're seeking. We live in a world obsessed with stars. Star athletes, star students, star employees. We put them on magazine covers, celebrate their achievements, and assume they did it all on their own. But Adam Grant makes a bold argument. It's not just the people who matter. It's the systems behind them. Behind every so-called self-made success is usually a hidden network of support, opportunity, feedback, and structure. And in Hidden Potential, Grant shows how these invisible systems are often the real reason people rise. Let's start with an example. Have you ever heard of Finland's school system? It's consistently ranked among the best in the world, not because it has superstar teachers or genius students, but because of how the system is designed. In Finland, teachers are paid well and given autonomy. Students get less homework, but more trust. And learning is collaborative, not competitive. The result? An environment where average students thrive, and hidden potential becomes visible. Grant says we've spent too much time trying to find the best people, and not enough time building the best environments. This shift is huge. Instead of asking, "Who's talented?" we should ask, "What system will help this person grow?" Think about it like planting a seed. You don't judge the seed in the first week. You check the soil, the sunlight, the water. If you want potential to flourish, you need to fix the conditions. Grant dives into workplaces next. He shares how some of the most successful companies, like Pixar or Bridgewater Associates, intentionally build systems that support growth, feedback, and experimentation. At Pixar, even the biggest directors have their scripts reviewed by a team called the Brain Trust. There are no stars, only stories, and every voice counts. At Bridgewater, employees are expected to challenge their bosses, even the CEO, because the system values truth over hierarchy. In these places, success isn't about individual brilliance. It's about collective improvement. And here's the surprising part. These systems don't just help high performers. They elevate the average. Because here's the truth. Most of us are not outliers. We're not born with extraordinary gifts. But with the right system, we can achieve extraordinary things. Grant points out a huge flaw in our thinking. We assume that potential is something you discover, like buried treasure. But really, potential is something you build. And it's built best in environments that encourage trying and failing, offer consistent feedback, and recognize effort, not just outcomes. This matters deeply for anyone in a leadership role, If you manage a team, teach students, raise kids, your biggest job isn't to find the best. It's to create the conditions where the best can emerge. Even in sports, Grant highlights a shift. Top coaches don't just scout for the most talented players. They invest in systems of practice, coaching, and mental resilience. That's why some teams win consistently, even without the biggest stars. So, what can you do today? Whether you're working on yourself or leading others, ask, am I designing a system that supports growth, or one that rewards the same few people over and over? Am I making space for struggle, feedback, and second chances? Am I focused only on results, or also on progress? Because here's what Adam Grant wants you to know. You don't rise alone. You rise with the help of systems. And when we build those systems right, hidden potential becomes impossible to ignore. You've probably heard of growth mindset. It's the belief, popularized by psychologist Carol Dweck, that abilities can be developed through effort and learning. Sounds powerful, and it is. But in hidden potential, Adam Grant argues that a growth mindset alone isn't enough. It's one thing to believe you can grow. It's another to be in a culture that supports that growth. That's the real secret, building a growth culture. Let's break that down. A mindset is internal. It's how you think. A culture is external. It's how your environment acts. You might believe you can improve, but if your boss punishes mistakes, or your teacher only rewards perfect scores, or your team mocks questions, that mindset will wither fast. So how do we build a culture where growth actually happens? Grant identifies 3 core elements. 1. Psychological safety. This means people feel safe to speak up, take risks, and fail without fear of shame or punishment. In growth cultures, mistakes aren't buried. They're shared. Questions aren't seen as weakness. They're welcomed. Grant tells the story of a hospital that reduced its surgery errors, not by punishing doctors, but by encouraging nurses and assistants to speak up. When they created a safe space to raise concerns, everyone got better. It's not about being soft. It's about being open. Because when people feel safe, they try more, learn faster, and grow deeper. 2. Process. Praise, not just outcome. Praise. Most of us are taught to celebrate results. You got an A. You hit the sales target. You nailed the performance. But in a growth culture, we also praise how people got there. You worked hard to understand that. You kept trying even when it got tough. You improved so much since last time. This kind of feedback trains the brain to value effort, resilience, and learning, not just achievement. Over time, it builds confidence and character. 3. Coaching over criticism. In most environments, feedback sounds like judgment. That was wrong. You messed up. You should have known better. But Grant says that real growth happens when feedback becomes coaching. Supportive, specific, and focused on helping the person improve. Instead of saying, "You failed," say, "Here's where you got stuck. and here's how we can fix it together. When people feel coached, not criticized, they don't shut down. They lean in. Let's pause for a second and apply this to real life. Ask yourself, do I surround myself with people who encourage growth or only success? Do I give feedback that builds or bruises? Am I celebrating effort as much as outcome in others and in myself? Because here's the big truth Grant reveals. Even the strongest mindset will collapse in a toxic culture. But even uncertain people can thrive in a culture that believes in growth. It's not about being positive all the time. It's about being committed to getting better all the time. Grant highlights schools that focus less on ranking students and more on progress portfolios. He shows companies that reward experimentation, even when it doesn't lead to success. And he reminds us that growth isn't a solo pursuit. It's something we build together. So whether you're a leader, a parent, a friend, or just trying to grow yourself, remember this: the culture you create can unlock someone's hidden potential, including your own. You've heard the stories. You've seen the science. Now it's time to bring it home. Because this isn't just a book about them. The athletes, the leaders, the change makers. It's a book about you. You have hidden potential. Not because you've already achieved something big, but because you haven't yet seen what you're fully capable of. And that's where Adam Grant ends his message, with a call to action, not just to believe in your growth, but to build it deliberately. Start with self-awareness. The first step isn't to set bigger goals. It's to understand where you're starting. What are your current habits, your blind spots, your strengths that go unused? Grant reminds us that self-awareness is a form of power. The more honest you are about your limits, the more effectively you can push them. And don't stop there. Ask others. People who know you well often see parts of your potential that you've overlooked. Reframe failure. Next, change how you define failure. Most of us see failure as proof that we're not good enough. But in growth, failure is feedback. It's information. It's instruction. It's direction. Instead of asking, "Did I succeed?" ask, "What did I learn?" When you stop fearing failure, you start discovering possibility. Design your environment. Grant returns to a critical theme. Your surroundings shape your success. Do you spend time with people who challenge you and lift you? Are you in spaces that encourage learning or judge every mistake? Do your habits reflect who you want to become? Remember, it's hard to grow in a place that keeps you small. If you can't find the right environment, create it. Even one daily routine, one growth-minded friend, or one new habit can shift your trajectory. Seek the right struggles. Don't just wait for opportunity. Go toward challenge. Grant urges us to chase desirable difficulties, things that push us just beyond what's comfortable. Learn a new skill. Join a group where you're not the best in the room. Take on a role that forces you to stretch. Comfort is the enemy of growth. Progress lives in discomfort. Not pain, not chaos, but productive, intentional struggle. Track progress, not just wins. One of the most overlooked parts of potential is recognizing how far you've come. Grant suggests using progress markers, simple ways to track what you've improved, even if the end goal is far off. Journal your growth. Reflect weekly. Compare yourself to who you were yesterday, not someone else today. Growth isn't always loud. Sometimes it's slow, steady, and quiet, but no less powerful. Lift others as you grow. The final piece: don't just unlock your own potential. Help others unlock theirs. Grant says that the best way to reinforce your own growth is to teach, coach, and empower others. Whether you're a parent, a leader, or a friend, you can build growth cultures everywhere you go. Encourage people. Give feedback that fuels, celebrate effort. And most importantly, believe in their hidden potential, even when they don't. Because here's the real magic. When you help others rise, you rise too. Final takeaway. Hidden potential isn't just a feel-good idea. It's a framework for how ordinary people become extraordinary. Not by being born special, but by doing the work, embracing the struggle, and creating the right systems around them. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to start and keep going. Because your greatest strength may not be what you can do today. It's what you're still capable of becoming.